All right, so we do have a couple of special presentations or discussions that we're going to have. But before we proceed to that, I do want to let the public know that on June 9th, we will be discussing the New Jersey School Board Association Goals Recap for 2024-2025, board self-evaluation and goal setting for the next school year. So the first thing that we'll have is the board and administration to give an update on the progress of the board and district goals.
Do you want me to go first, Sandy? Okay. So we have 4 district goals. Dr. Cullis is going to go over 1 and 2. I'm going to do 3 and 4. I'm going to start with number 3. The first one was to investigate and report on possible solutions to challenges in district transportation. So we've met a few times with the group, with our committee. We have a proposal for a study of a new garage in different locations. I shared it with the board on 10/4 on October 4th. The task force met on September 25th. We did put a new flood alert system in at the garage. So there's a mechanism to give us an alert if we feel the floodwaters are getting high to move buses. When it comes to other challenges like hiring drivers, we do have 4 new drivers hired, and we've interviewed 10. We have 3 full-time bus lunch aides, and we've upgraded our demographic study, which was approved on the approval to upgrade it was on November 18th. Goal 4 is to implement a district communication plan to strengthen and enhance communication coming from the school district. This works off of the Communication Committee report from 2024. Our Communication Committee in-house committee has met on June 13th, September 16th, December 10th, and our next meeting is February 4th. We have made some new changes to the Friday folder that will start this week. And we continue to investigate website changes, both keeping with current platform to improve the current platform and moving to a new platform. And then we're making sure to preview changes on all types of devices, because it's sometimes when you just look at something on a desktop or a laptop, it looks different than it does on a handheld. And we're also ensuring compliance with the ADA, with all the ADA restrictions that are required for websites. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Cullis for goals number 1 and 2.
So goal 1 is to increase achievement for all students, inclusive of all curricular areas, but with a focus on math and science. So this year we did continue our process working with the coach. She's working with 5th and 8th grade. We have seen that this has been a great use of her time and the way that we have improved in those particular grade levels that she's working with. So we're continuing with our math. In addition, we have after-school tutoring at all 3 schools with a grant funding. So we do have that program in math. As far as our TSS programs, that's probably one of the biggest changes, because we do have the supervisor of student support services. And currently we have the programs running in all 3 schools. Lakeview, we have 53 TSS cases, Riverview 42, and Valley View 14. So we're progress monitoring those students on a weekly basis, working with their parents, their teachers, and their intervention teachers as well. So those are all ongoing. In science, we are working on practice assessments in 5th and 8th grade that are provided by Linkit. And there are different forms, both with open-ended and with just multiple choice, to get ready for the format of NGSLA. And we also have found, at least reporting back from the teachers, the new TCI science program, they feel has a lot more assessment and is better aligned to the format of NGSLA. So the students are getting a lot more practice with reading charts and graphs, being able to interpret information. So I feel good about that, because our previous program didn't have, I think, enough of that type of questioning. Goal number 2. Again, this is specifically to expand the tiered systems of support. So I did mention the numbers already. Everything is ongoing. The only thing that we're continuing to work on is the website. We've updated all of the people and programs, but we're in the process of creating a new video because it's a few years old now. We'd like to create a new video for that site. And that is where we stand on the goals. If there are any questions.
Great. I'd like to open it up to board members. Just in case there's any board members that want to follow along, there is a document that you can find in the Google folders or on Steve's email where he sends links to his agenda and his folders. So, but yes, I'd like to open it up to the board members for any questions. I'll go ahead and kick it off with a transportation question. Dr. Forte, the interviewed where you have 10 interviewed drivers, is that did that result in 4 new hires, or after the 4 new hires you interviewed 10 additional drivers?
No, the 4 drivers came from the 10 interviews.
I see. Okay, great. So is there going to be potentially more, and have there been discussions about trying to get away from the contracted routes and get some of those routes back in-house?
We have Ms. Gorowski, do you have anything to add to that?
We are going to continue with the outsourced routes at this time. We have enough drivers in-house and a couple of few subs. However, we still have our group of drivers is in different categories. I don't want to say elderly category. So we do have a lot of absenteeism. So we had to cover ourselves with absenteeisms and be able to transport everybody. So we're going to continue with the outsource.
Thank you. And the final question with regard to transportation is, do we need to continue that task force and schedule another meeting?
If we're talking about doing something with the bus garage, then yes. If the other part, we have made some inroads, and I don't feel the need to talk about the personnel matters. But if we want to, I know it's one of those things, right? We haven't had a flood in a year, so knock on wood, it's not as fresh in our mind. But if you remember, we did have 2 last year, 3 weeks apart. If it's something that we seriously want to do and consider building something somewhere else, then yeah, I would have the committee. But if it's something that can be discussed when we're discussing other issues like our space we could probably combine the idea of figuring out what to do with the bus garage with our space concerns, and that's all going to be tied into Dr. Grip's report that we'll get in the spring.
Thank you. So the biggest challenge we had with the transportation or the garage was the flooding. And with that new alert system, we at this point, we haven't had a chance to sort of test it because there hasn't been any issues of potential flooding. But do we feel that's enough so that we can put that discussion off with the new garage?
Well, the alert is only to move the buses. It just gives us a little bit of a peace of mind. Like we'll know, hopefully get an advance warning to make sure we move the buses, but it won't protect the facility. So if you remember last time, we had a couple buses that I had to move like at the last minute because the water came quick. You know, you think like a flood is slow, but it's not. It goes quick. All of a sudden it's like a little wet to now you're like up to your knees or waist in water. So this will give us a little bit more of a head start, hopefully. But there is really nothing we can do about the facility. I mean, it's just in a really bad spot. And it's not like if we put sandbags or anything, it's not going to do anything because the water is way higher than that. Like, it's not like it's just a little bit of water. Yeah. And there's nowhere to pump any water or anything because the whole thing is totally flooded.
I mean, my only, additional comment is it's not just about the water. I mean, that's certainly the biggest issue, but we also have an issue of space. We can't put anything else there. We talked about electric buses or charging facilities. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to put anything like that there. So there's lots of other, I think, kind of knock-on things about that location that are not great. So, besides the flooding. So, I mean, to my mind, it still is worth, keeping in mind alternatives, whatever that might be.
Probably, I think to me, let's see what Dr. Grip says. Let's reconvene the space/transportation task force and in the spring after that and make some decisions.
I was leaning towards that as well. If we're going to need some major work done, whether it's a new building or upgrading a building, we could possibly bundle those two issues or items together. So, yeah.
Real
Go
quick on just to put a cap on that, the issue is that there's no good location, guys. Like the locations that have been brought up are not good locations. You're putting a bus garage in the middle of a neighborhood. This room will be full. And you're gonna, so I think we really need to think about that. I get it, it's not a great spot. I'm not arguing that, but man, the alternatives don't feel good to me and would require it would require a referendum, right? So we're talking about referendum plus knocking down hundreds of trees, plus putting in the middle of a neighborhood. Just there's a lot of not good scenarios. So I think if it's part of a larger project, that's a different story altogether. But that's what we've looked at so far, unless the one location that I've brought up a few times that we can't seem to get any progress on, which would be behind the DPW, that would be the location that, in my opinion, would be the only feasible option that we've looked at so far. But that has not been, that has not gotten much progress or traction.
You know, I went over that with our architect, and there's a lot of floodland. He was looking at like where the access road would go, and it was in like the flood area. You know how there's certain areas you can't build on. There's probably a dry area on the back, but to get to that back, you have to go through some kind of flood area. So he said we can investigate it, but he did not think it was a great location for the bus garage.
I was going to say, if there's the location of the wetlands, you have to be a minimum of 50 to 60 feet away on all sides of any perimeter. So if there are wetlands, then that's going to affect the building.
The only other option would be if we could look at some commercial, like near some commercial property. I will tell you right now, I will not be supportive unless we absolutely have to do it in putting it in a neighborhood. I just cannot wrap my head around putting buses in a neighborhood. And the options we've looked at so far have been two options that are basically in neighborhoods. So I just, unless it's part of a larger project, I'm not super supportive from a outset.
There might be another opportunity with the town too, but it's going to take some time.
You know, we discussed at the our ops committee, finance committee, several times that the DPW wasn't really a viable place to put it. You bring out the wetlands. I know we looked back there for a middle school many years ago, and a lot of wetlands back there that butt up where the DPW is. And then you have the access that's locked up during the night. You know, you have late bus runs and things like that. And then the DPW is going in and out of there all the time, snow plowing. So it's not a great location. But one thing we're talking about money, is having a study done on raising the building. And I believe we could get some federal aid for that, Steve, if I recall.
We can't get any state aid for it because they only give state aid for school facilities. It has to be actually a school. So we wouldn't get any state. We could investigate whether or not there's some kind of federal funds maybe because it's in a flooded area. I'm not sure.
You know, so but it's just very limited where to relocate that garage, and then that costs money. And Mike's right. Not only the neighbors wouldn't like it. There's been so much cutting down of carbon eaters in our community as well all over the country. You start having cutting down trees and forests to build a school or put a bus garage up. So it's a dilemma.
Great. Any other questions or comments regarding the other goals?
One quick question. I'm on the website, Dr. Forte, and are we going to post the updates that you just presented? Because I see it looks like the last time was like September, which makes sense. But just now that we've gotten the presentation, will you post that?
Yeah, I usually do it the next day. That way,
Totally makes sense.
just in
Okay.
case, yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So with that done, let's just now discuss our board goals that we had set for ourselves. That's, I believe, on the third page or the last page. Goal number 1 is to represent the needs of the districts through advocacy on matters of concern at the local, state, and/or national level, to regularly monitor progress towards district vision, mission, and goals, adjusting as needed, review the Denville Public Schools Board of Education's bylaws and revise as necessary, and increase the presence of Denville Board of Education members at community and district activities. So I believe for number 1, the needs of the district through advocacy. Mike, you had mentioned, Mr. Anderson, you had mentioned something during executive that I thought was interesting, where, maybe health insurance, if it could be aligned somehow with the school year, albeit it might not be. But any comments or discussion items like that where we might want to bring it to the attention of our legislators in Trenton, then we can go ahead and create a resolution and move forward from there. So I do want to follow up on a couple of resolutions that we passed last year with our legislators. So I'll take any other ideas and suggestions as the year goes on.
James, I've got one that we may want to think about discussing. I don't know if it's a school board conversation or local, or should I say state level folks, but with the affordable housing and the amount of, shouldn't say affordable housing, forget about that. The amount of housing coming in, is there anything that the state can support in trying to the build or potential build on schools or the additional student population that will be coming in with the additional demand? It's probably a third rail, and most people are probably going to try to avoid it significantly at the state level. But I mean, I would imagine that most districts that are like ours are facing similar challenges. And I'd be interested to understand what school board's position, or actually, Steve, remind me, what is the name of that other coalition? The Garden State Coalition, is it?
Yes.
Those are districts that are similar to us, right? So that may be a little more specific.
They've expanded to urban and larger and suburban. So they used to be just like suburban, but now they've expanded larger now.
Okay. But it may be worthwhile to discuss with them too. I just think that, we're looking at potential, huge costs that may be coming down the road. And we've talked about it. Unfortunately, there seems like there's some state regulations that are preventing the town from collecting additional funds, because we've asked about this, additional funds that would be able to support or at least help offset the cost of additional infrastructure with the building. So if we can look at specifically those regulations and what it would look like to potentially offer some solutions that would be supportive of the districts and the infrastructure costs that may come. So,
yeah, Mike, I was thinking about that a lot too. I was part of, I think Dr. Forte was there, Mr. Cass was there, and Mr. Capella was there at the DCA COA presentation that the township had. MSA Dallas, were you there? Yes, MSA Dallas was there as well. So one of the thoughts I had during that meeting is, what if we took a stance, put it in form of resolution, and then maybe present it to the delegate assembly, and they could tell us what's wrong with it, or if they have something else. So that's actually something I'd like to, and maybe this is something we can do in governance committee, is to put together a resolution where we as a board, the Denville board, takes a stance with all this new development that's being forced through regulation and legislature, that because of the challenges with our budget and because of the challenges with supporting financially the increase of students, as well as the need for teachers, that we should ask the legislature and maybe school boards to come up with something to help support districts like us, which I believe, Mr. Anderson, I agree with you, is probably all the districts. So yeah, that's maybe that's something that we could do, and that would be in lines with goal number 1 as well for us. So in terms of goal number 2, regularly monitor progress. Yeah, this is, I think this is something that I'd like to continue with our agendas, just revisit our goals. So January, we revisited our goal now. The next meeting is supposed to be June, where we sort of finally assess. The question I have is, do we have another sort of reassessment in March of how we're doing with our goals? And maybe that's something that we don't need a formal presentation on, but we can bring that up in good of the cause or something. And that would help us with goal number 2 in terms of how we want to adjust as we monitor our progress, whether it's a district board or what have you. In terms of number 3, bylaws, that was the whole reason for the introduction of the governance committee, is to review the bylaws and revise as necessary. We've already changed a few bylaws that allowed us to be more in line with state statute and regulations. So I do believe that we are making headway in goal number 3. And in terms of goal number 4, I personally, I'm not doing well because of business and personal reasons. But I do believe that the Anxious Generation initiative that Dr. Forte, you have put together, is a great way for us as a district and as board members to be involved with the community, to address it and just have a conversation about a topic that is, I think, really important. So I'd like to use that as one of our ways of achieving goal number 4, to build upon it and really look to see that succeed in our district by increasing the discussion around that. So any other questions or comments?
Just one more comment in regards to goal number 1, and if we want to bring it to the state, it just came into my mind. One of the concerns is, obviously don't want to prevent affordable housing. So if that whatever we propose is specific to market rate housing and a assessment to be able to support additional school building with the market rate, that may get more traction than tying it to affordable housing. And it kind of separates it, because if there's a huge development that gets approved in town that's all market rate, it's not related directly to affordable housing. That's not my point. It's just the amount of students that would potentially be coming in with the housing. So maybe just an idea to kind of separate it from affordable.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's a very good point. So, Mr. Anderson, if you want to send me an email with some bullet points of how we might want to write that up, then governance committee can discuss it. Okay. Any other board member comments or questions? I believe that concludes our special presentations. So moving on with the agenda, superintendent
I
comments.
have one more, sorry.
Oh, sure, please, go ahead.
Okay, so it's our twice annual update on the HIB and student safety data system progress for July 1, 2024 through December 31, 2024. We had 0 instances of substance abuse, 0 weapons. We had, for HIB, we had 2 confirmed HIB cases, 3 HIB investigations, and 7 predeterminations. Vandalism, there were 0 instances. Violence, 0. And we did have reports of suspension of students with disabilities for other than violence and vandalism. There were 2 cases. 2 times the police were notified. There were 3 in-school suspensions and 0 out-of-school suspensions. From July 1 to December 31, we had 27. These are staff, student, parent trainings. We had 27, and we had 61 different programs. The programs that we do are teaching and learning, so it's embedded in some of the curriculum, developing student relationships, the safety, parental support, physical and emotional environments, and the morale in the school community. That's it for my update.
Thank you for Dr. Forte. I apologize for missing that. Any questions or comments from the board regarding Dr. Forte's presentation? All right, great. That concludes special presentations. We'll move on to superintendent comments. Dr. Forte, if you will.
We need to take a new Board of Education photo for the yearbook. Should we do it right now? So I don't forget? That's why I put it in my notes. Everybody want to get up here, take a picture? We'll have Rebecca do it, and then we'll come back for a minute.
Oliver, it's Will Bennett. Tell your mom we need a picture.
Send that through, send that through a little filter.
Exactly. Professional.
Okay, CUSAC. Our visit was January 15th. It went very well. Thank you to Mr. Kim, and thank you to our team. We had a short meeting with the whole group from 8:30 to 9, and then the county staff worked with the central office staff and the special services department on our goals, all our indicators. And we felt like it went pretty well. I heard good comments back from the county staff. So thank you to everybody. Very excited about a new recycling program we're working on with the town. Our green team, between myself and the green team, the mayor and Mr. Egbert, we're going to expand our plastic bag, plastic film, plastic wrapping. If you guys know what I mean, it's all that kind of stuff. The recycling of that, we're going to coordinate with the township now. We're going to work on getting a receptacle down at the recycling yard to capture that kind of stuff before it goes into the garbage. And we will now be bringing their stuff as well as ours to Stop and Shop on Route 10, who sends it to Trex, and then we get these Trex benches back, which we just received one very recently. So I was pretty excited because I felt like that's probably, I think the public will do more and more of that, because I remember just thinking like there's nowhere to bring the stuff. So if we make it convenient, I think hopefully we'll get a lot of people that do it. Just for us, if you've ever seen what happens when we get deliveries of stuff, it's all wrapped in this plastic. Like if you've ever been to like a Home Depot or a Costco, the whole pallet is wrapped with that wrapping, and all that just went right in the landfill. But now we recycle that. So it's a pretty cool thing. I'm really happy that we're going to be doing more of that. If you're around on January 30th, we have our National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony at Valley View. I'll get you the date. I'll get you the time in a minute, but it's January 30th at Valley View. I went to see the band concert the other day, and I was so happy to see our vision coming true now. Like we've been trying to work hard on getting more and more kids involved and embedding the rehearsals right into the school day as an elective. And it was able to work. We were able to work it out this year, and you could really see a difference in the level of performance. So I thought it was great to see that. We did do the lead testing. I talked about it with you. That was published. There were 3 outlets that weren't used very often, but all 3 are now capped and shut off. So there is no more requirements on our end, and we'll be testing our outlets again in the future as required by the state. I am happy that the anxious generation started and it's moving. We do have already about 27 people signed up to take part in our book study. And we're going to be putting more and more information out. It's going in the newspaper this week, and it's on our social media. If anybody is on social media and could take my link and repost it, that would be great. I'd love to get it as much traction as possible on this. So I'm real happy with the way it's going so far. And James and I spoke before where we would like to do all executive sessions at 7 p.m. going forward. Does anybody have any comments about that? Yes or no? Because it's I feel like we could probably get most of our work done at 7. So we're planning on moving forward with that going forward. I will talk to James if he feels like we need to do more reminders or anything, but that's what we're going to do planning going forward. So thank you. That's it for my comments.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Forte. I believe it's at 7 p.m., the Junior National Honor Society event, so on January 30th. Assistant Superintendent comments, Dr. Cullis.
Yes, the program Be Seen and Be Heard that was scheduled for tomorrow has been postponed to February 7th. So that involved 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and that has been moved to February 7th. Report cards, our brand new elementary report cards are going to be ready. They are ready, and our teachers are getting them filled in. The portal opens February 7th at 3 p.m. for report cards. That's for all grades, the middle school's semester grades and the first report card for K-5. Kindergarten pre-registration opens next week, February 3rd. So you can find the link on our website, denville.org. Also, our green teams are collecting towels and blankets because they're making dog toys with the Oaks, at the Oaks. Some of our students are going up to work there, and they'll be making these dog toys. So towels and blankets can be brought to the front offices, and they'll go to Valley View, who will be going over to the Oaks. And this concludes Assistant Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Cullis. Business Administrator comments, Mrs. Gorowski.
The Ethics Commission's disclosure statement was sent this week. Please complete that as soon as you can. The deadline is April 30th. We do have some time, but sometimes if we don't do it right away, we forget. So if you don't mind submitting that, I have to then review it and have it to the county by the 30th of April. So just to allow me some time to review it as well. My other comment is we finally completed the HVAC Lakeview, and we also received 81% of the grant that was promised to us in the amount of $1.3 million. So the whole project cost the district about $300,000. It was a great savings.
Thank you,
That's all.
thank you, Mrs. Gorowski. I saw that in the minutes for the Finance and Operations Committee, and I was really pleased to see that. So thank you for all your hard work on that. In terms of the ethics reporting, do we still have to fill out like a space or a 0 so that that the glitch that the website has, where if we don't put anything, it gets returned as rejected or something like that? Do we still have to worry about that?
Just the first line, you can put NA. If you forget, it's okay. I have to review it on my end, and I can just complete that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the agenda and open it up for public discussion. We're opening it up public discussion at 8:08 p.m. All right, seeing no one in the chambers from the public and no one online, we'll go ahead and close public comments at 8:08 p.m. and move on to old business action to be taken. Mrs. Zadelis, can you take us through old business action to be taken, please?
Sure can. The following resolutions have been recommended by the Superintendent of Schools to the Board of Education for approval. We are looking at January 2025, after the review of the Secretary's monthly financial report and upon consultation with the appropriate district officials. To the best of our knowledge, no major account or fund has been overexpended in violation of NJAC 620-2.13, and that sufficient funds are available to meet the district's financial obligation for the remainder of the fiscal year. So I move to approve the following resolutions under old business. The A, Treasurer of School Monies, and the Board Secretary reports of December 2024. B, the Education Reports, Report of Student Enrollment, Report of Health Office, approve the 2025-26 holiday calendar for the 12-month staff, and HIB VV 2024-2504, and the minutes of the December 16th, 2024 meeting, regular and executive session.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is personnel. Mr. Capello, can you walk us through that, please?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. If there are no objections under personnel, I would like to move items 1 through 10. These include item number 1, which is new hires, resignations, retirements, and leaves. I would like to point out a change on 1D. In the description, instead of retroactive coverage for employee D00010077, 1925 to 13025, that should be changed to be, say, 1925 dash until further notice. Continuing, number 2, we have approval for leave for FMLA for an employee. That continues. We have item 3. We're rescinding resolution 4A1 from our January 6th Board of Education meeting. Number 4, another FMLA approval. 5 is we're retroactively approving employee for leave of absence under FMLA. 6, also an FMLA leave. 7, another FMLA leave. Continuing on to number 8, FMLA leave. Number 9, also an FMLA leave. And number 10, we are going to be approving the hiring of a new substitute teacher.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Dr. Moore, can you walk us through IMP, please?
Sure. I'd like to move for approval of the following resolutions under instruction and program. Under number 1, several Morris Knowles students to observe at Riverview School as part of their Education 101 class. Item number 2 is to approve the attached list of field trips. Item number 3 is to approve the purchase of Get Ready from Vista Higher Learning. Item number 4 is to approve the list of schools for Title III consortium purchases. Item number 5 is to approve the discard, which is to donate, sell, or recycle the following materials. And it looks like a series of books.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Okay, at this time, there is nothing under governance, letter C. So D, finance. Mr. Anderson, if you would walk us through that, please.
Sure. If there are no objections, I'd like to move under D, finance items number 1 through 6 as a block. This includes our checklist under item number 1. Item number 2 is to approve the disposal of the list of items below listed in the agenda. They're nurse equipment that is no longer in use by the district. Item number 3 is to accept the donation of 15 warm-up shirts for the girls basketball team at Valley View from an anonymous donor. Number 4 is for the board to approve the donation of 30 copies of the book, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt at a cost of $487.50 from the Denville Education Foundation. Number 5 is for the board to approve the attached non-resident tuition agreement for the student number listed in the agenda for the 2025-2026 school year. And item number 6 is for the board to approve the donation of $250 in Donor's Choice credits from code.org for the Riverview Computer Lab. Miss Renee Sudel, technology teacher, won a contest with the organization to receive the donation.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Just a quick comment to obviously thank several folks that made donations, including an anonymous donor, Education Foundation continuing to support the district, as well as congratulations to Miss Sudel for winning the credits for code.org.
I agree. Thank you. Okay, if there are no questions or comments or further questions or comments, roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Aidelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
No on the milk fund, yes on everything else.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. Okay, operations, Mr. Cass, if you will, please.
Glad to. No items to discuss or move under transportation, but under building and grounds, item 2.1, I'm asking the board to approve the attached quote from Site Remediation Group LLC to prepare a Phase 2 environmental site assessment for the site located at 46 Nicole Drive, Denville, New Jersey, and the amount of $4,910, which will be paid with maintenance reserve.
Second.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Aidelis,
Yes.
Mrs. Astorino,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes. All right. Next item on the agenda is the good of the cause. Committee reports, correspondence, discussion items, and other items that the board would like to discuss.
I have, for the highlights, I have donations, the goals update, and the HIB SSDS update.
Thank you.
I had the pleasure of returning to the Riverview PTA meeting, and it was a great meeting, well attended. And they have most of their committee managers in place for all these wonderful fundraising events that they do throughout the year. A couple of openings, but they do a great job. So, and just one key item that it appears to be a big hit wherever it goes is the use of therapy dogs at Riverview. Mrs. T did talk about that a little bit and how successful the program's been, and people I know who are educators in other schools too, that they make a use of therapy dogs, and it's a great addition to the education system.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Aidelis, you wanted to bring something up for the board?
Yes. So I just wanted to make a comment, and I don't know if I wanted to mention what was done publicly this week by the administration as well here. Steve Forte, Dr. Forte was able to connect with the staff and the administration regarding any policies of immigration officials or immigration and customs enforcement officials to enter schools. So I just wanted to read a little bit about what the New Jersey Department of Education has put forward, and just make sure that, you know, as a board member and on the sitting here at this dais, I want to make sure that our community is aware as well. So the New Jersey Department of Education is unwavering in its commitment to ensuring that every student, regardless of immigration status, national origin or religion can attend public school safely. Excuse me. This the past couple of days have been quite chaotic in some cases for some people, and I want to make sure that the community knows that as administrators, or maybe I'll just speak for myself. I'll speak for myself. That we stand with our community. We stand with individuals who are here to receive their education. There is no reason for grown adults to take students out of school that are not responsible for them. We are here to provide a safe environment for students. We are responsible for them, and it's completely unethical and irresponsible for any kind of trauma or any kind of government agency to come in to do whatever they feel. It is a judicial issued warrant that is required, but again, there's no reason for anyone to enter our school in that way. Again, that's my personal opinion, but I will say that the superintendent and the staff have been informed of what is required of them, which is to reach out to the superintendent and administration should anything occur. I value all of your opinion in this, and I thank Steve again for putting out that maybe we need to create a more stringent policy and procedures and include the language from the DOE. I appreciate again that you educated our staff, but maybe we want to provide further clarification, especially to the front office staff, administrators, and teachers. And again, I know that we are notifying Steve, but I do also request that the Board of Education president be contacted as well, if ever the case occurs.
Any other board member wish to comment or add on to that?
No, I'll just agree with everything Mrs. Dale said. We're here to educate children at the end of the day and keep them safe. I know Dr. Forte believes that's, and we all believe that is our first and primary goal. So, I think our actions hopefully will continue to reinforce that. We have to comply with the law, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our community is safe and that our kids are educated.
Yeah, just to update, I did include the Department of Ed information when I informed our staff. There's the Department of Ed had a website. So I did include that, and I already spoke with all the people involved. And we have, I think, a solid process in place if something like that was to happen. And everyone was told that only Dr. Cullors and myself can make any decisions on this, that people are told to wait until we get there and figure it out with our board attorney.
Okay, yeah, from my perspective, I believe I echo the words that have been said here so far. I mean, we are in the business of making sure that our children are safe and educated. So whatever might have happened up to this point that will happen in the future, I'm sure we'll figure it out because this board, in my opinion, has always been nonpartisan and will just make the right decision. Common sense often applies with this board. I believe common sense applies with this board. So any other good of the cause items?
I know we'd all like to get out of here, but there's been a periodic buzz goes around in the media, the newspapers about pre-K education, which I think everybody agrees it's good to do. But when you read the articles, especially when it comes from the governor at a very high level, the devil's in the details. And I was here, many years ago when we finally got to full day kindergarten, which was a great achievement. Dr. Cullis was here too. Catherine Mozak, our interim superintendent, that got that going. So, they don't get into where do you put it? Are the schools big enough? And right now we're looking at expansion possibilities or even discussing a new school because of the influx of new students from affordable housing. So it's something to keep an eye on. I don't think they'd ever mandate it and that you have to do it, but it costs a lot of money. The governor had some funding proposals, but He's a lame duck governor. He's not going to be here forever. And the state is stretched financially too. So, if you do it, are you going to be able to keep it? And where's the money going to come from?
As I mentioned earlier, I sat on, along with a few other board members, the town's meeting with regards to DCA/COA developments. Some of the questions I had asked is, will this happen continually? Because we had just finished round 3 of COA, where we see all these new developments around Denville, which will lead to additional students. And what this meeting was about was the next round that's supposed to happen over a 10-year period. So my the next logical question was, will there be more rounds? Will there be a round 5? And the answer was yes. The answer was there will be these rounds. The future term, I think, is going to be DCA rounds every 10 years. So in light of that information, the district will have that uneasy feeling of school space. And I do think that we have a big task ahead of us. So the next domino to fall for this board is the presentation from Dr. Grip. And once we have that presentation, then I do believe that we'll have to have another round of committee meetings, specifically the space consideration meetings. So the information provided to us was that there would be potentially a need for another 485 affordable houses. So the development would build, for builder's remedy, they'll build another 80% above that. So we're looking at potentially 2,425 units with this next round. So, but the town did agree in their resolution to only vote to counter with, I believe, 230 houses, if that's correct. I'm not sure. Go ahead, Dina.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, one of the things I think that's important to remember is that there is much less developable land than there was during the last go round. They spent a lot of time looking at that. And when you take that, all of the land that the state said is available, and there are some ridiculous ones, when you come down to what is realistically buildable, it's a much smaller number. Actually, I think the affordable number might have been less than even 200. I think it was more like 100 and change. So I think that was the number they were going to counter with. Now, there's no guarantee that that's going to mean anything, but they felt that that was a defensible position, that the numbers kind of bore that out, that the calculations, there was an argument for that.
So they're currently in the process of negotiating, I guess, via lawsuit, that specific number. But our job, I think, is to plan ahead, and I think that we will have some interesting conversations moving forward. I also was part of CUSAC, the CUSAC meeting that Dr. Forte mentioned in his comments, and the overall meeting was very positive, and I've heard very good comments from the county Board of Ed as well. So I believe that, from my opinion, Denville often is the standard. Like we're developing a reputation and a culture that we want to set the standard, and I think that's important. And so I think that's always very good to hear. And I think that's where the governance committee is sort of where I want to take that. I want to sort of push the envelope. I want to, if we can develop a board that continually challenges its legislators, the suggestion that Mr. Anderson had, if we can create a resolution that challenges the legislators and say, hey, listen, and that was part of this meeting as well. Did they factor in the impact, the impact to traffic, the impact to the school systems, the impact to the community, all these developments? And the answer was no, they don't look at that. It's almost like from a statistical standpoint, they only look at the numbers. So I want to see if we can challenge Trenton with some additional resolutions. And I'm sure we can get school boards to help and support us as well. So Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. And the other nugget that I'd like to leave with you, board members, is, and I'd like to further discuss that in governance committee, is that I always feel like the presidency should start in June, July or August to coincide with the school year. And I don't know if there's been discussions about that in the past. And I know that our term ends in December, but could we do it where a president could be elected in July and then the term end would end in June, just like a school year? So I'm already seeing mixed responses, but go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't think you can do that from a reorg point of view, right? Damaris?
Correct. That is a statute, and that has to be a resolution to be brought up to Trenton in the DOE.
Yeah, let's challenge that statute, but okay, yeah, so just up for discussion, you know. So, all right, are there any other comments or questions? Is there a need for an additional executive? We have the agenda, which tells me that we need to open it up for public comments. And so I'd like to open it up at 8:29 p.m. So seeing that there's no one from the public here in person and online, we'll go ahead and close public comments at 8:29. There is no need for executive session, so could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
I'll second.
Great. It's a tie, so Ms. Gorowski can decide who was second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? We are adjourned at 8:30 p.m.